guys, my name is Michael and welcome to a new GTK StatusBar tutorial. Like I already said in the last video, after we created a status bar right here and then we put inside a container, once that you compile it and run it, you won't see much difference, and this happens because we have no information to be shown. This means to actually print something, we need to create something. Okay, for this let's go back. Let me check again if the search GTK scale is working. No, it's still not working. I hate this because I just got a message from one of you which said that in its town, which is located in my country, works fine. I have two phones from different companies. Even at home, I still cannot access their website during searching context, so which means I still don't know why. I filled a file, but it's not working until now, and no one seems to care about it. At least no one had time for it. Anyway, we don't need it, we can use it, so I'm going to drop it. Okay, that being said, like I said, let us check what's the story with the status bar and what do we need to actually make it work. I mean, to actually show some information. For this, we are back here to our dev help and the next function, or better said, let us go up a little bit. As you can see, we have more function. We have status bar push and pop. These are the functions which are actually needed to make the status bar to work, at least to show some information. But these two functions, they are based on a context ID, and this context ID, I'm going to show it right now. It is a function GTK get context ID, which returns a GU int and takes two parameters. The first one is the GTK status bar, and the second one is the textual description of what the context the new message is being used in. So returns a new context identifier given a description of the actual context. So note that description is not shown in the user interface. Of course it is not, but what exactly this thing means? Well, what this means, it means that you do this context ID, you created this one, you don't get it, you create it and get it in the same time. What I'm talking about, let me go back a little bit to our code blocks. You see here we have the interface of the code blocks, and we have here, for example, home Michael templates GTK status bar main C. This is a context. This thing was created to be shown so that it can inform you that it is something which has to do with this file. So basically they created a context ID where they said, okay, this context ID should have this file information, put it here on the left, at the beginning of the status bar. So basically when you create a context ID, you need to create it based off what kind of information hold this description. If, for example, if you create a link for your website, or you better said, if you want to show information about a link of your baseline, then you create a description with a link name. Like you already saw, you create a description with information about the file which is actually used. For example, if you go now into your files and you click on something, you see you have here information, templates selected containing important items and free space and so on. You see, based on where I'm clicking, it is coming some information, you see, and this information which is actually here coming, it is information which was created during that context ID information. So that's the thing which you need to understand. Okay, so that being said, let us call this function. For this we need to create the context ID, because this one returns it. Of course you can call without it, but then you cannot use it because this information needs those other functions. So let us create this. So let's declare one here and context ID. Now that we have it, we can use it, context ID, and we are going to point it to this function. Once that we have it, let us pass the status bar, which is the first one. So GTK StatusBar, we need to cast it, and status bar, and the next one, the context ID. Well, that's the description of the context ID of the context. This is the description, like I said. What do you want to know? So what should I know? Let's say this will be a link, whatever, is not important. Anyway, this this description message won't be showed or something, or it won't be really revealed to the user, but it is there just to know what kind of context ID you are using for that message which you are with which you are working. Because if you create another context ID, you can just say I don't know, the size of my file or whatever. No, it's not important. The description is just there to make a difference between those contexts which you are creating. Okay, once that you have it, once that you created and you got the context ID, now basically you can move to the next functions, which are GTK status push and pop. Well, the main difference between let us check first what the documentation says. And documentation says it pushes a new message onto a status bar stack, so a new message. And the pop says removes the first message in the GTK StatusBar stack with the given context ID. So note that this may not change the displayed message if the message at the top of the stack has a different context ID, you see? So just be sure that when you call this function, just be sure that you call this function on the same context ID. If you call it on a different, I will remove the different one. That's the reason why I was telling you the different things of the context which you create. Because if you create something else here, something else, then this something else will be removed based on its position, of course. That is very, very important, and this is important for you to know. Okay, that being said, let me remove this part right here because we don't need it, and we are going to call now the push and see what happens. Okay, we are going to pass the status bar. I'm going to create as simple as possible without creating callbacks or something where you can get it. So as you can see, we have here three I did push, yes, okay, 3 arguments. The first one is the GTK status bar, the second is the context ID, which is the message context ID as returned by the GTK status get context ID. So this is the message, and the last one, it is the text where is the message to add to the status. So basically this is the important message which we are interested in. This is the message which it will actually be shown on the status bar. Okay, and says pushes a new message onto the status bar. So basically this one pushes a new message. Okay, this is what we need, isn't it? Okay, so context ID, and the next one will be the text. So I will say, because we said this will be a link, let us create it. HTTP double calls, and then okay, HTTP, and now let's say www.youtube.com, whatever. Now we created our link, isn't it? So let me compile and run and see what happens. Yep, you see it's working. Of course it looks a little bit creepy because we didn't actually put it on the position where we need it, but it is there and we have it. Now watch what happens if you call GTK status pop. Says removes the first message in the GTK status bar stack with a given context ID. So note that this may not change the display message if the message at the top of the context at the top of the stack has a different context ID. So let us check what's the story with this one. I'm going to copy it, I'm going to pass it right here, and what it said, we need a context ID and a status bar. So let us compile it and run it. And we have nothing now. Now to be shown that you understand, I'm going to create another context ID, the context ID 2, just for the sake of the example, whatever, this is the file size, whatever. And now we are going to pass the context ID 2 right here. So we are trying to pop a message. You see, has no effect on this one because we tried to apply on a different context. So this one stays right here. Now I want to show you something else. I'm going to remove back all this information just to be shown that you understand. I'm going to hold on a second. Sorry guys, I had to take a call. So I'm back. Anyway, the important thing which you need to understand between these functions, it is basically the main thing which you need to understand about this status bar is that even if this status bar can provide only one message, or better say it can print only one message at a time or something like this, it doesn't mean that this status bar cannot have more messages. Of course it has more messages. This is the important thing which you need to know, and the message which will be shown, it will be always the message which is on the top of the stack of the messages. So basically you create a stack with more messages, and always stays the currently message on the top. So the message which is pushed will be always on the top. That is very important for you to understand, because this difference make a lot of difference, isn't it? So for example, if there is no information after that, of course there will be no displayed. So when you call these two functions, basically you are calling the function GTK StatusBar push with some information, and you once that you have it, then you call this GTK and you print it. Once that you do that, you call GTK StatusBar pop and you just remove that information. That's all. Okay, thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.